Do I just plant another flag on another hill and then, or say, make another goal to run to the top of this hill and then just start running up that hill without thinking about it? And I think we all know the answer, right? It's much easier to have a very short, brief evaluation period and then just and say, I'm going to go plant another flag on the top of another hill. The problem is that when we run to the top of the next hill, nothing's going to be different if we haven't really thought out our model of success.
This is the Untamed Podcast, where only the few dare to go. We're building a community of adventurous high achievers who refuse to trade our dreams for comfortable mediocrity so that we can unleash our untamed potential. Could you be one of the untamed few? Now, your untamed hosts, Mark Lucas and Joel Fritz.
Does your definition of success suck?
Whoa.
It is highly likely that when your model of success was being imprinted on you, developed, that you were not a mature, fully developed brain, cognitively developed individual that was thinking about what you truly wanted out of life.
It's powerful. It is. And we've talked a lot about that opening sentence because we spent a lot of time, you and I, in the last couple of weeks, really coming to a place of realizing, even in our own life, that there's been many moments throughout our journey where we've I don't even know if I have a definition of success.
That's right.
Whatever I would communicate to you if somebody were to ask me the question, it's probably not that clear. Mm-hmm. It's probably not that great, even if I did get something out verbally or on paper. And that's why there's a lot of reasons why, but that's why it probably sucks. And there's lots of layers to this conversation because, Joel, we really feel like we've been put into a place in the last couple of weeks to create just some incredible content in a masterclass that really helps men specifically have a paradigm shift, begin to understand what is their definition of success, what are these specific spheres that we've talked about now already in the last 2 podcasts, but what are these 5 spheres that really help them articulate and put some clarity around a robust, holistic definition of success. So at the end of the day, you're right. I think even for us personally, we've wrestled with even our own definition of success being pretty sucky, if that's even a word. And at the end of the day, it's like we want to help men create a personalized blueprint that they can put on their office wall, somewhere visible, that has clear objectives, KPIs, metrics, habits, goals, that there is beautiful clarity that they can look at this after 21 days, after 2 months, after 3 months, after a year and say, it is amazing to see not only the growth, but the growth now that we are successful and they are successful in life and in work. And those two are not pitted against each other.
That's right.
You can have both.
Right.
Whatever the lies that we've all believed to some degree along the way in the journey of life, we've believed that there is a lie that you can have one or the other. Yeah. You can have both. And we're here to help you find success in both.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, it's really a conversation we just naturally have a hard time probably, especially if we're on a path toward success, to break out of that and reevaluate, to kind of ask good questions and ask, what do I want out of life? Am I experiencing happiness? One of my favorite questions that has come up between us as we've talked about this over the months is this question where you go, well, if you're so successful, then why aren't you happy?
Yeah.
Because we talk a lot about happiness in this world. And I mean, but if we have so much conversation about happiness, and then the sum total result is that people continue to run on this hamster wheel of success. As long as I run faster, that is the result.
It's hustle,
of,
it's grind.
Of happy. Yeah,
it's
hustle.
Yeah.
So we want to be somehow be proponents for men that are saying, congratulations, you're successful. You've worked hard. You've come to understand the principles, the determination, the grit that it does take to experience some level of success in your life. But has it provided you everything that you've been looking for? I mean, are you experiencing that happiness, or you're not experiencing that happiness? And by far, they are not experiencing what they truly want in life, which has more to do with this sense of meaning, fulfillment, purpose, things like that, happiness, if you would, calmness, peace. Yep. So those are the things that people end up wanting, and they sometimes find themselves very confused as to why their current model of success is not producing that. So we are saying, like you said, we want to help people with a personalized blueprint of success that is actually in a stage of life where they can think it out. They can actually ask, what are the most meaningful questions? How much do relationships mean to me? How much do I want to be an emotionally balanced person? You got to see the podcast that we did on emotions. It's an interesting one because guys, we don't see that we have very many emotions that we typically tap into.
The core four.
We are built, the core four emotions. Yeah. And you got to go there to find those out, by the way. And but we have so many different emotions that we don't experience and need to be more in touch with. So we want to see these guys. We want to see you guys succeed. Truly succeed in a guttural sense, in a life sense. So that's it. But we got to acknowledge it, and we got to awaken, and we got to evaluate.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we've even come to kind of visualize is, and maybe this isn't exactly you, but this is actually one of the images right now that we've kind of pictured for men. And just envision right now that you're in your office. You're in your executive office. Okay, maybe you're in a suit. And as you look out the window in this executive office, in your office, okay, you've hit so many milestones. You've achieved so much in the way of success at work. And as you sit there and you look out the window in this exact moment, you start to begin to ask yourself, I've been successful. And you might even look behind your desk and you see all the different awards and all the different plaques that are there. And as you look out the window, you say, I've been so successful. And yet, where is my meaning and purpose? Why don't I feel the fulfillment that I want in this exact moment? And I even asked this question, and we had this conversation. We said, when we look at the thousands of different men that we've had the privilege to be in groups and to be on one-on-one individual consulting and conversations of coaching with, I had a conversation where I wanted to ask a question to a guy that's become a friend, and he's overseen over the last almost 20 years about 30,000 different people in men's small groups. So men's small groups that gather inside the church. So his name's Jeremy. He's a great guy. He's become a good friend. And I asked Jeremy, I said, Jeremy, I just want to ask you a question because Joel and I are really wrestling with this success masterclass.
Yeah.
And how we help men be successful in life and at work. I said to him, what do you think has been the biggest rock, the most consistent rock in all the challenges that these tens upon tens of thousands of men that they've struggled to be successful in life and at work? And most of them have been struggling to be successful at life. And he said, he thought for a moment. We're having breakfast. He thought for a moment. And he came back and he said, I've got it. Here's what it is. I'm leaning in. And I said, yeah, Jeremy, what is it? And he said, it's that men, by and large, the thing that is the biggest rock is not even really necessarily a rock itself. What it is this. It's their inability to slow down, to process what even success in life is and what it looks like, and to begin to even write down on a paper what that is. They just don't do that.
No.
They don't know how to find margin or the process of slowing down enough to be still before the Lord, before God, to be still in their thoughts and to begin to process this question of what success in life looks like.
Because they got to keep running.
Because they're so trained and they've conditioned themselves to be so trained to be successful on the hamster wheel.
Right.
And through that, we've even talked, when you first kind of brought these 5 spheres to me, you said, Mark, when you think about it, you even asked me the question, you said, Mark, I want you to envision now, if best you can, all of the guys, by and large, that you've met with over the decades. And I want you to think to yourself, as I just gave you the 5 spheres, I want you to just envision this. The guys have been, because they're in the hamster wheel, they've been extremely successful in their grit and their hustle and their grind at work, in their careers, okay? And in the process of being in the hamster wheel, they need the ability and the stamina to endure the hamster wheel. So then they quickly identify that they cannot lose sight and they've got to grow and be successful in the physical and to grow in their physical, in their ability to be strong and their ability to have endurance, because they've got to support the hamster wheel. So now we've got 2 spheres, physical, and now we've got the career, that for the most part, they've been crushing. And they're completely myopic to the other 3, the emotional, mental, the relational, and the spiritual.
Right.
And because they don't slow down enough, and they don't even know how to slow down. And even when they slow down, I've had men tell me before, Mark, I try to slow down. When I try to slow down and process some of the things that you discuss with me, I have a hard time even slowing my mind down to not even be able to hear my thoughts, to not even be able to slow down enough where I don't hear noise, because I'm just running and chasing so many things every single day in the hamster wheel.
Right. And, there are 2 things distinctly that come to mind. One of them is very recent. It's in my most recent interaction with an individual who talked about this, and they called it a drug. It's a drug, right? They've got a high, and they start to come down off that high or make that space, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's jittery. And it provokes fears. It does all sorts of stuff to them. And we don't know what to do with that feeling. Therefore, we reject it, keep running. This is the second thing. The way that we run as fast as we can to the top of a mountain, and we plant the flag. And then as soon as we're there, we look around in almost confusion. And really the sense is like, okay, should we reevaluate the whole process? Should I reevaluate I've achieved this success. Should I see, is there anything missing in my life? Am I feeling that meaning and purpose? Am I feeling happiness like I might be hoping that I feel? Or do I just plant another flag on another hill and then, or say, make another goal to run to the top of this hill and then just start running up that hill without thinking about it? And I think we all know the answer, right? It's much easier to have a very short, brief evaluation period and then just and say, I'm going to go plant another flag on the top of another hill. The problem is that when we run to the top of the next hill, nothing's going to be different if we haven't really thought out our model of success.
Well, that's exactly right. Again, we go back to happiness, and it's a great conversation because all of us want to be happy. And we don't have happiness after we run to the top of that hill. And we ask ourselves as we plant that flag, why don't we feel happy? And even if we feel happy, it's very short. It's short-lived happiness. And I think at the end of the day, we don't feel happy because we know that true, long-lasting happiness is formed inside of us. It's a formed inside of us happiness that truly is identifying our relationships, identifying meaning and purpose. It's identifying that we're not going to live a life that is a consumer and we just constantly consume, but we're going to contribute to others. We're going to start having contributions to others. We're going to look at our surroundings around us and say, okay, how do I give back with my time? How do I give back with the abilities that I have and the talents that I have and the gifts that I have to be able to go and serve other people? And that's the big difference. And that's what we're saying. You can run to the top of the hill, and we want to keep running to the top of the hill and be successful at work. However, if you don't really have a framework and a plan or a personalized blueprint that helps you understand success in life, then you're just going to keep running the same hill because we run to the things that are winning. So if we're winning at work, then we'll continue to run that race. If we feel to some degree, even a small degree, but for sure large degrees, that we're not winning at home, then it's demoralizing and not motivating.
And we're going to run at work and run away from home, right? Because it is that sense of demoralization.
Golf. We're going to do all the things that keep us kind of away from home.
You got it.
For me or pickleball players, maybe it's whatever it is, sports, hobbies, activities. But at the end of the day, we have to really evaluate, okay, and it might even be you can still be successful in the mountaintop of career, but then reprioritize energy. Reprioritize and build up habits that really strengthen your relationships, that strengthen an understanding of your emotions, your mental growth, your area to grow spiritually, and understanding who God is and how much he loves us and what a relationship with him looks like. So
yeah. Well, and if you guys will stick with us till the end, we are actually going to give you a couple of exercises, and it's going to be 2 days worth of what we call a 21-day plan, right?
Personalized blueprint plan. Yep.
Personalized blueprint plan, right? For blueprint for success. And it's a really cool thing, but we're going to give you 2 of those days so that you guys can put those into practice. And I think it's a very functional thing if people will stick with us till the end. They can hear those. But yeah, this whole process really is about taking some of the skills that we have already developed in areas and recognizing that success they're fundamentally, there are a lot of the same principles. It's just that we have to develop a more robust structure for our model of success, right? Because otherwise we're left feeling empty. And I think the other big thing is that so many people, you guys watching us and listening to us right now, you may not have thought through what these items are that you really want to succeed at, or even thought that they're possible. And so it's almost like we want to give permission to people to recognize that they can do that you should do that, and that it's not going to crush your career. You don't have to choose career over life or life over career. You do need to recognize that actually both of those are important parts of success. And so actually developing a paradigm of success that it fits both of those in, as well as these other things in the spheres, is actually critical. Yeah. And if you can, you're going to start actually experiencing some of that meaningfulness that you're looking for. And there are ways to get there too, because we talk about KPIs and things like that. And I think people are like, I can't have KPIs at home. I mean, it's inauthentic. Well, what's inauthentic about you succeeding at work, right? You authentically figure out how to grind it out and succeed over here. But then you don't make any application at home. You just think that your wife, your relationship is just magically supposed to work. Yeah. It's just not like that, right? You got to be able to form up, what are the things that I should be doing on a regular basis? And then how do I actually interact with a real person? We talked a little bit about that in our first podcast, which is actually a really good thing. But how do I actually live with a real live person and meet their needs and kind of use the tools that I've learned to be successful over here in that area as well. And it actually works. That's the crazy thing.
It does work. Well, and I know we've got a bunch of stories that we could share of people that have really been running really hard into their career.
Yeah.
And they've come to a place where either lost their job or they retired. And yet we just see this identity crisis.
Right.
We see that they have absolutely no identity outside of their career. We see that they are completely lacking meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
And then we want to get to them, and we want to engage conversation in this masterclass with you before that ever happens.
Right.
Like, we have the ability to course correct, to make mid-course corrections even right now, currently in this reality of you hearing or listening to this, and say, okay, what does this look like today for me? What is the step right now that I know I need to take to be able to get better in the way that I can be more successful in life and in career? Probably I'm leaning towards, knowing our audience, is probably maybe more towards the life side than the career, but it might be both. And we're here to help with you both. But that life side, it's really, really important. And I know, obviously, you got a story that you shared earlier about your grandpa.
Yeah, I do. And I mean, if there's one thing, before I share this story, just want to encourage you guys. I mean, it is an awful thought to think that you get to the end of your life and then you look back and you go, I missed out on major sections of my life. Maybe relationships, or maybe your emotions were really out of whack and you really struggled. I mean, just huge segments of your life. The spiritual connection, you don't find that until the last days of your life. Why? I mean, it's such an integral part of our lives. We want to encourage. We just don't want you to miss out on it. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But the story that I have is about one of my favorite people in the entire world, and it's my grandpa. And my grandpa Stockton, incredible guy, but he was in the Air Force, so he was in World War II, and he was a pilot. And there are all sorts of incredible stories, and so I can't tell any of these stories because I don't have time. It'll take me in another direction, because the story that I want to tell is at the end of his life, not in kind of those years of being in the military. But he was a decorated pilot, and he actually, after the war, In 1954, he won one of the most prestigious trophies that the Air Force gives out called the McKay Trophy. And what I love about this, and this is just to talk about the kind of man that he was, is that this was the first flight to stay airborne for 72 hours. And the reason that they did this is they did this to basically prove air dominance, that they could stay up in the air for 3 days straight, flying around the world with an atomic bomb. Obviously, there's a very close close time frame to when that happened back at the end of World War II. They wanted everybody to know we can stay up airborne. You have no idea where we're at for all this time. So the way that they did this, and this is my favorite part of the story, is that basically they just made really long wings on the airplane. And then they attached as many engines as they could. So I think he said there were 3 engines on each wing. Because they knew that engines were going to burn out while they were airborne. So then they had this crew of pilots that was going to rotate through, and they were just going to stay airborne as long as they could. And I said, "Well, Grandpa, how many engines burned out?" And he's like, "Oh, I think 3 burned out on that one, you know." But as long as I think they had 2, maybe even just 1 engine, they could still stay airborne, right?
Wow.
So that was he won this incredible award, had a very decorated service in the military, became a full bird colonel. So I remember my childhood, we would drive on to Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, and it was always heel clicking and salutes at the gate when you go in. It was, "Yes, sir," "No, sir." And what I realized through that, and that was only when he was retired, access to the officers club, all sorts of things like this. That's when he was retired, but his, the respect that he garnered while there was truly immense. I mean, when he said to do something, people moved. But he retired in his mid-40s, and at that point in his life, I can't imagine what it was like for him. But he chose to go into real estate and became just another realtor in Tucson, Arizona in the 70s, I believe. And when I thought about that, because then I heard some of those stories, mid-40s goes from well-known, well-respected boss guy, right?
Yeah,
Successful boss man, to do this, don't do that. That you're not doing this right with the house, to his brokers bossing him around and giving him like kind of crappy houses to list and stuff like that. And I just remember how much that affected his self-esteem. And during that time, he became a very angry person. And honestly, when I remember as a young child, I remember one time I almost thought he was going to kill my brother because my brother did something. And I was like, and he was a strong enough personality and angry enough that it felt like as a kid, I'm like, oh, my brother's going to get hurt. Wow. And that's how I remember my grandpa for a period of time. But something extraordinary happened, and around 61 years old, he had a complete reversal, complete change in him, in his very core person, when he accepted Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. Nobody saw it coming. The whole family walked with Jesus, and he resisted until he was 61 years old. And at 61 years old, he gave his life over. And I'm going to tell you this because it's such a stark contrast. But this guy started at somewhere in his mid-60s after receiving Jesus into his life to answer the phone, "Did you know Jesus loved you?" to every single phone call that he received from that day until the day that he died. I believe he was 94 years old.
Wow.
So that's more than 30 years at that point of answering the phone. That's how distinct that shift and change was in him. And I guess the greatest testament that I can really give to my grandfather is that I watch a lot of people get older, and when they get older, they get crankier.
Yeah, grumpy old men.
This is the exact opposite happened in this man's life. At 61 years old, he got more gentle. At 61 years old, he got more caring. At 61 years old, he got more generous. At 61 years old, he became a different person. And I say that because I recognize that he was successful, super successful, into his mid-40s. And then he goes and he's angry for this period of time. And there's stories from when he was younger as well, during that driven period. But then at 61, his life goes on a completely different trajectory because he realized that there were things that he was missing. Yeah. And he said, I need that. And he went full in, and started to experience greater success in the second half of his life than even the first half had to offer.
That is absolutely beautiful. Well, what I'd like to do, thank you for sharing that story. That really blessed me, and I know it blessed those that are with us today. I like to give, because we talked about it a few times. I'm just going to read it because I don't have it all memorized. We talked about just this opportunity we have, not only for the masterclass that we're doing, a 90-minute masterclass, and there definitely is a link below for that, but we're also giving an opportunity for you just to get a sample, 2 days, a 2-day sample in this 21-day personalized blueprint. We haven't said this, and we know how time-impoverished the successful men and the men are that follow and engage with the Untamed group that we are. The time is such a precious commodity, probably the most precious commodity we have. So we've really been intentional to design this at 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day for 21 days gives you a personalized blueprint for success. So I'm just going to read now just 2 of the days, and this is going to be below.
And we're hoping you guys do this. I mean, take 2 days, 10 minutes a day.
And then there's more, but yes, this will be 2, and absolutely. So every day starts with either a quote or a Bible verse. So today starts day 1 with a Bible verse, and it says this: "Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Romans 12:2. The prompt for the day, this takes about 3 minutes. What does success mean to you right now? So for 3 minutes to reflect upon that. Then there's a reflection for another 3 minutes. Who shaped your definition of success? What's wrong with your definition of success? Has your definition of success delivered fulfilling success? The last part in day 1, okay, we're now at 6 minutes. This is 4 minutes for this part. Write a brief statement on how this definition of success has guided your choices. That's the first day. Day 2. C.S. Lewis quote: "Isn't it funny how day by day nothing changes, but when you look back, everything is different?" The prompt for 3 minutes. What is the first time in your life you felt successful? The reflection will take about 3 minutes. Describe how that made you feel. The action step for 4 minutes. Write down who noticed or celebrated that moment. And this begins to help men, and this is why we've designed it, Joel. It begins to help men understand through these prompts, through these questions, how they can personally develop a success blueprint for their own life.
Right.
And it starts, I didn't mention this, but it starts the first part of the 21 day. There's some real prompts that really get the soil of your heart ready to be able to understand that. And we've talked several times in the podcast about this, but to some degree, we've all been wounded. And in that process of being wounded, either by a father or somebody that was close to us in the family, maybe a coach even, but somewhere along the way, there's been a wounding.
Right.
Okay. Somebody, because of all of us being obviously imperfect people, there's been a wounding. And through that wounding and through you developing what looked like to jump into the workforce, you ultimately came to a place where you just started running the race of the career. You started just jumping into the hamster wheel, and you began to either prove people wrong, you began to figure out where your motivation was, you began to figure out how do you be successful in whatever area you're in, and you just began to run real fast and real hard into success. And yet in that process, like we've said already in this podcast, you haven't had, in this 21 days, it will slow you down. Just like when I asked the question to Jeremy, it will slow you down to be able to reflect and begin to ask the prompts and the questions with the metrics to define your success blueprint that's personalized.
Yeah. And I can't help but mention we have our 5 untamings and Untamed, because all of this falls under the umbrella of our movement, Untamed. And we'd love to have you guys in the Facebook group and all that kind of stuff. But in the 5 untamings, those first 3 are awaken, breakthrough, and then embark. Those are the first three. Yeah. And we need to awaken, and we're really focused on this for this sense of awakening. How do we help you stop for just a second and take a moment to evaluate? Just ask some hard questions. Don't be afraid, or talk with somebody, and tell them, I'm afraid to do this. Like, find a buddy and say, but I need to do it. And then just stop and try and awaken. These are some questions that'll help you. Our webinar upcoming, that's something that you can plug into to check it out. And you can see a few more ideas, how we fill this out, etc. But ultimately, it will have something to do, that awakening and breakthrough process will have something to do with actually asking, what's my model for success and who formed it? How did it get formed? Understanding that, reevaluating, and then making a better plan for the future, because then you can get on your path to purpose. And we love that, but we call it the path to purpose, as we're becoming our own hero and then ultimately experiencing purpose flow. As the fifth untaming, this sense of purpose, like really truly living the life that we've been made for.
Jump in this journey with us.
Yeah,
we all want that purpose flow. Jump in the journey with us. Thanks for being in this journey. But jump in the journey with us. Connect with us. We've given you several different ways to do that. Thanks again for listening to this episode.
All right, guys, we love you.
If this episode sparked something in you, please subscribe and even share it with someone who's ready to take their life to the next level. We're always on the hunt for men who are looking to become untamed and release their untamed potential. Also, if you found value in this conversation, then please rate the podcast and leave a comment. It makes a huge impact in building our community. We'll see you next time when the adventure continues, or maybe when yours begins.